we talk about a system which is basically what you're seeing here. So this is a standard a system everyone from you know from day-to-day life. It's a typical scanner which can scan any document, and it's very general, right? So everyone can use it. Everyone uses it. Today we do not talk about such a system. We do talk about a very specified system which does some tasks very good, and specifically those tasks very good. We are talking about a high-end system which you do not find that often, and also not that often in our portfolio. The system we are talking about is the OptiVision system from Koenig and Bauer. It's a system specifically made for coating applications of any kind, so battery, print inspection, and so on. And it takes in account a lot of knowledge from Koenig and Bauer out of their specific field experience. It is a system for two applications, mainly for two applications. On the one hand side, special print applications, like applications with metallic foil surfaces or embossed elements, where your normal line scan applications do suffer because of a lot of different angles of the light and reflections. And it's made for applications where you need a single pass combined print inspection, like color, RGB, and NIR, color, RGB, and UV, for example. And it's very good at that. It's also good at battery. If any one of you ever did scan a battery foil, you know that it's a very hard surface to get into an image because you have a very high dynamic range. On the one side, you have reflective metal, and on the other side, these black coating, which is just black and nothing comes back. And this system is made for that. It's a full subsystem, so you do not get only one thing. You get multiple things, like you get the CIS, you get a lighting from Koenig and Bauer, you get a frame grabber, and all the mechanics you need. So a hassle-free system. We'll talk about that later as well. It's a true HDR print vision system, and made for high speed. But more from us. So my name is Lothar Topp, and this is Dennis Grobner. We are from STEMMER IMAGING. You probably know us, but we were a bit quiet in the last couple of years. We will get louder now. And yeah, basically, if you read this text here, there are 2 points which are important. We are a distributor with a high portfolio range, and we try to get a lot of value adding to our components, like visibilities, services, and so on and so on. We talk about Koenig and Bauer today a lot because the OptiVision is from Koenig and Bauer, and Koenig and Bauer is a developer of machinery and software solutions for the entire process of printing, like offset. And they are a long-standing partner of STEMMER IMAGING as a customer and now as a supplier as well. And OptiVision takes in account all the experiences Koenig and Bauer does have in the field. And from that, let's dive into the specifics.
Yeah, let's dive into the text. So here you can see the system. To the left is the OptiVision system, to the right is a schematic. But I think it's way cooler to see it here in live because it's just standing next to me. So take a look with me. So here is the system in live. As you can see, it's a whole subsystem. It has a role for your web. It has the maintenance lid up here. And of course, as this is a vision webinar, we're almost all the time talking about the maintenance lid and the camera head. Here in the middle, you can see a contact image sensor from Mitsubishi Electric. And of course, here are the 2 illuminations Lothar already told you that are made from Koenig and Bauer. Of course, that's not all of it. Underneath, there's a lot of electronics, like the trigger mechanisms and so on. And here's also an encoder. So if you trigger your application, everything's in here and there's nothing else needed. But now let's go more into detail. So let's go back to the presentation here. Come on. Okay, so of course the system we have here is only one possible subsystem. Here you saw one row, you saw one maintenance lid, but of course this is only one option. There's another option, for example, you can see here with 2 rows and of course 2 maintenance lids, especially interesting if you want to analyze both sides of your web. Of course, there's also some differences between this one and this one, like the different illuminations or what we can think of, but more on this later. First of all, and this might be the most interesting stuff, is the contact image sensor from Mitsubishi. Here you can see it in blue, and of course, it's not only the contact image sensor itself, but also the mounting, the orange parts, which allow you to precisely focus the contact image sensor. If you haven't heard of a contact image sensor or the Mitsubishi line scan bar, it's a telecentric line scan camera. Basically, it's just a different mechanical design of it. So you can see it doesn't need much space. It's very small. It's not heavy. And of course, it's easily integratable into your machinery. It offers you acquisition at 600 dpi and 42 micrometer resolution per pixel. And it goes with up to 2.3 meters per second scanning speed. So we're talking about high speed and of course, high dynamic range, but a bit about this later. As we're talking about high speed, we also need a Euresys, or we need a frame grabber to cope with the high bandwidth. And this one will be the Euresys Coaxlink frame grabbers from our partner Euresys. But of course, the camera head is only one part of it. The other part of it is the illumination itself. Here you can see both illuminations, so one to the left, one to the right. Both of them are, you can change the angle of them individually. And they are very high power. They're focused on the same spot where the Mitsubishi CIS is focused on. And we can offer them to you in different variations. So we can offer them to you in white, like for example, our system here has. But of course, we can also offer them to you in near infrared or ultraviolet, or a combination of both. So depending on your sample and your web you want to inspect, it might be interesting for you. Also, the illumination is only one part of it, as there's also the trigger mechanisms and stuff we need for high speed and same environmental changes or not environmental changes, which is underneath the system or in the back. That's also like the trigger mechanism and of course the segmented lights itself. And we can work with triggers and intensity control here. The illumination is water cooled, or if it's necessary for you, there's also an air cooled version later in the future. The system works with a bright field and a dark field illumination, especially the bright field. The green one here is interesting if you have reflecting material, as the light gets directly reflected from the surface into the camera. Like I said, this highlights the reflective part of it. And of course, there's the other one, the dark field illumination, which reflects the light, let's say, away from the camera, and only the scattered light gets to the camera, which highlights matte surfaces or surfaces that reflect diffuse. Like, for example, the battery foil, the copper, which is the bright one, or which is the reflective one, and the dark area, which is from the dark field illumination.
What I can add here, maybe it's you can think of it as a multiple solution. So you on this image you see both lights turned on in the same time, and typically this is how it works perfectly. So you have one light which is reflected away, and the other one is direct reflection for the metallic parts and so on. So you do not need a triggered HDR system where you have one light on and then the other and in a odd poses, one light on, even poses the other one. You can turn them on at the same time, and typically it's worked very well. But there's also another idea where you can do a real HDR.
Yeah, so we can do a real HDR, of course, not like one or the other illumination, but here at the same time with different line trigger length or pulse width. So the idea is that like we have a material which is very challenging, and we want to highlight the dark areas by the bright parts of the image and the bright parts of it by the dark image. And now we can make a bright and a dark line, like as you can see here, successive, and then split these apart and put them together later on as a high dynamic range picture. And this is also possible with the system here you can see to the right. Again, as you can see, there's a long and a short pulse. Depending on what you have, you get a brighter or a darker line. But of course, the HDR mechanism is only one part of it, especially as a part of the illumination. There's also the mechanics around it. As we said, it's a full subsystem. So you get everything you need from us, or in this case, from Koenig and Bauer. And actually, this is kind of a hassle-free system. So it's ruggedized. So you normally don't need to worry about vibration. It's enclosed, which is not visible here, but it's on top of it. You have the micrometer precise CIS adjustment for precise focusing, which is also necessary for most applications. You have the maintenance lid for easy access to your web. And of course, there will be a calibration system. You can just put in the open state underneath your camera for a good flat field correction and everything you need from your system. It's hassle-free because it kind of combines the knowledge from STEMMER Imaging as a machine vision distributor and Koenig and Bauer as a printing system expert. So it should have everything you need for your application in print or in battery foil, for example.
One important thing to the calibration system is, of course, that you do not need to remove the foil. You open the lid, and then you can calibrate without removing the foil, which is part of the hassle-free thing we are talking about.
And of course, there are many multiple options we can think of. The system you saw before is the left one, the Cross 4, where you have 2 illuminations, 2 cameras to analyze both sides of your web. Both sides with a dark field and a bright field illumination. And of course, if you want with white, NIR, or UV, there's also the Cross 2 version in the middle you can see here, which with only one illumination and 2 cameras, 2 camera heads, 2 rolls. And of course, there's, let's say, the basic one or the single one where you have 1 camera and 1 illumination. For example, if you have already an existing machine and want to add a machine vision system, of course, we can think of anything in between. So if you need, for example, 1 camera head with 2 illuminations, that will be fine. And also a computer can be included. But let's not talk about the tech anymore. Let's go into the samples.
Yes, we have brought 2 samples or sample images for you guys. And it's, first of all, a battery foil. I mentioned it before. First time I had it on a system, it was nearly impossible to get a good image. Either it was too bright or too dark. This is an image made by the OptiVision system, and you see very nicely that you can have both areas, the black one or the dark one and the metallic one. I think there's a node, so it's copper here. And if we zoom in, we see very nicely the error on the foil itself, and we can see specific errors on the foil at the same time. In this case, both lights were turned on at the same time, so it's not the HDR video we showed you, and it is, let's say, bright enough. One sample that was, and the other one, we found a nice packaging, which is very reflective. You see it in the video, and if you see at the direct reflection, you see that the chocolate itself, it's getting dark at the moment of the direct reflection, but we need a direct reflection for the gold. So here, this is a standard system. We see that not every gold feature is seen nicely. So you have on this side, I just don't see it really, but it's the fine herb thing here at this part of the image. And here we see in the middle of the golden lettering that there's a lot of gold missing as well. If we take a look into the OptiVision system, we have 2 lights. So the dark field, which turns out to give us information on the chocolate, and then we have the bright field, which takes the information out of the gold. And combined those two, so this is not an HDR combined image on software. This is just an image as it is from the OptiVision system with both lights turned on at the same time. We get the results on the right side here, where we have perfect gold here, and at the same time a good image on the chocolate. Can zoom in here as well. So this is a very high resolution we get here. And this is already everything. I hope you have some questions for us. Thank you again for waiting, and that's it. We made it.
Okay, thank you, Lothar and Dennis. Yeah, we have one or two questions. First one, is this service free and already available, and how can one access it?
The OptiVision system is already available. Currently, the best version is the one that you are seeing here, because this is the one which is completely finished. If you need a different length, we will need to talk about it. But the best thing is call us. We will distinguish together if the OptiVision system is really necessary, because as you see, it is a very complicated system, or if a standard system would be sufficient. And from there, we are going the steps to get it running on your company side.
Also, what I haven't mentioned before, the system is also available in different lengths. We are kind of limited to the CIS sizes, but if you have an application between 300 millimeters and 1.6 meters, we can find a solution for this. Not only, of course, this version here with 1 meter.
Do you also consider lenses with floating lens design in your tool?
Yeah, let's not call it issue, but the Mitsubishi contact image sensor is a very specialized system. So it comes actually with the lenses already attached. It's so-called rod lenses. You will not see it over there, but they are attached directly below the sensor of the CIS. This is the technical thing which gets the CIS so near to the object, and also which makes it telecentric. Currently, there is no floating design, and it's very yeah, that's the answer. There's no floating design, and I think there will not be in the near future.